all of you to our webinar today. My name is Alaya Sola, and I belong to IREC, the Catalonia Institute for Energy Research. We are work package leaders of the Low Energy Districts work package of GrowSmarter. So my aim today is to give you a very brief introduction on the topic of the webinar, but also on the work we are doing within the Low Energy Districts work package in general. So for you to learn what we have implemented up to now in the 3 lighthouse cities. So in brief, the main objective of this work package in the GrowSmarter project is the deployment of energy efficiency measures to lower the environmental impact of the existing building stock in cities. So in total, 123,000 square meters are refurbished in the 3 lighthouse cities, Barcelona, Cologne, and Stockholm, including private and public buildings and both tertiary and residential buildings. Also, local energy generation is promoted by using district heating and cooling networks and heat recovery from nearby buildings, as well as on-site renewable electricity production and advanced smart energy management systems. And finally, the project promotes the deployment of home energy management systems to raise awareness on energy efficiency and energy savings at home among the citizens. All these smart solutions have been implemented for their technical demonstration, and their respective business models will also be validated. And the webinar today is specifically about energy efficient retrofitting of residential buildings, as this is one of the objectives of this work package. In total, around 100,000 square meters of residential floor have been refurbished in the 3 cities in a similar proportion. And during these last 3 years, many lessons have been learned. So my colleagues from the 3 lighthouse cities will present today the smart solutions implemented in the selected residential buildings and the technological and social barriers that have been found and overcome during the last 3 years. So now I will leave the floor to them for you to learn more about the lessons learned during the implementation of these smart solutions in GrowSmarter. And thank you very much for your attention, and we hope these experiences are inspiring for other cities.
Thank you, Alaya. And our first speaker will be Harry Matero from Skanska in Stockholm. So I will hand over the ability to share your screen, Harry, now to you, and the floor is yours. Harry, we cannot hear you yet.
Yeah, hello. How do I share my screen?
You click on the upper hand side on share and then the drop down menu, okay. My screen. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, hi. My name is Harry Matero. I work at the construction company Skanska as a project manager for technical building services. I will present our efficient refurbishment of a multi-family residential building in Stockholm. Okay, so these are the houses that's being renovated by Skanska. They are owned by the housing company, Stockholmshem. The buildings are built in 1961, and it's in total 302 apartments. There are 2 building types, 2 4-floor buildings and 4 14-floor buildings. The Current energy consumption is 154 kilowatt hours per square meter a year. All the houses are connected to a district heating system by one sub-central in the area. So the goal with the energy renovation is 60% less energy consumption, from 154 to 61 kilowatt hours per square meter a year. That includes the energy for the hot water, heating, and the electricity for the house. The electricity for the household are not included. This will give lower energy costs for the housing company and a more consistent indoor climate and a better living comfort for the tenants. And these are the energy efficient measures that's being implemented. Additional insulation on the climate shell, an average U value from 1.0 to 0.5, an extra 80 millimeters additional insulation on the exterior walls, and the U value on the exterior walls is about 0.3 after the insulation from original 0.8. 200 millimeters extra insulation on the basement walls, 400 millimeters extra insulation on the roofs, and new windows with a U value of 0.7 from original 1.8. An efficient exhaust air heat pump is installed to produce heat and hot water to the building, and a waste water heat exchange system is installed to recover the warm water from the drain by preheating cold water to get warm water. And we are installing a system to reduce the hot water circulation losses by having fewer hot water circulation pipes, extra insulation on the pipes that we actually have, and a system called Smart Loop system. We are doing adjustments of the heating and ventilation system to get a consistent temperature in all apartments, and not having to warm in public spaces. And of course, we are installing water efficient fixtures that will save cold and hot water when washing and shower. PV cells are installed on the roofs of the 6 buildings. In total, about 80 kilowatt PV capacity is installed. It's about 50 square meter on the high-rise building and 140 square meter on the low-rise buildings. We are installing energy efficient lighting, elevator, fans, and so on. A new indoor climate control is installed to keep the correct temperature in the right place continuously. An adaptive control system is installed, which means that a number of temperature sensors are installed in the apartments to control the indoor temperature to the correct level. This reduces oscillations in the indoor temperature, which also saves energy. This is the building's energy flow. The former exhaust air system is kept, but instead of entering the fresh outside air as before over the window, the outside air is taken in behind the radiator to preheat the air when it's cold outside. The exhaust air heat pump is installed to recycle the energy from the hot exhaust air, which this will produce heat and warm water for the building. The system is also connected to the district heating. One sub-central per building is installed, except in one of the house. There it will be installed a geothermal heat pump instead of the district heating system. In summary, we can say that we do a lot of energy saving measures, and all these are built with proven technology and traditional building materials. So the challenge is actually to make all the energy saving measures work together in the building. The home energy management is called the active house, and it's delivered by Fortum, who is an industrial partner. In short, it's about informing and showing the tenant's energy consumption. And the screen installed in the apartments allows the tenants to influence its energy consumption by controlling the temperature and lighting in the apartment. An energy saving center is delivered and managed by L&T, who is an industrial partner in the GrowSmarter project. Basically, it's a system to monitor the energy performance and to control the building's energy system, such as heating, ventilation, electricity, and so on. The energy saving center is manned 24/7. This is the current time plan. As you can see, the work is ongoing in several houses at the same time. There's total 6 houses, as I said. One house is finished and all the tenants have moved back to the buildings. And one house is partly finished and some of the tenants are moving back. So this is an ongoing process, actually. It's a very tight time plan. We have had some delays, but in total it looks like we will make it according to the plan, hopefully. These are some pictures on the construction site. As you can see, some parts are done and some are still under construction. You can see on the first picture there's the high-rise building with a new facade and new windows and new kitchen fittings. There are some extra insulation are mounted on the walls and some PV cells. Here's some more pictures from the site. Here you can see windows with such a good U value that there is frostly on the outside of the glass sometime when the weather is cold out. So that might be a lesson to learn, perhaps. That was my presentation. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Harry. And I'm sure there are some questions now also related to the barriers. And again, I would like to invite participants to post their question via the chat function. I have also noted that Paulo raised his hand. So Paulo, I will unmute you in a second. Before that, I would like to ask Harry also some opening questions. First of all, you indicated that there were some delays. Why did you experience these delays, and so what barriers did you encounter, and how have you overcome them? Procedural-wise, I suppose there are, or organizational-wise. So could you explain this point a little bit better?
There was a tight time plan in the beginning, actually. So and then all the problems came when the tenants were moving out of the buildings, and Skanska were going in the buildings to renovate it, and there occurred some problems with the moisture and mold in the floors and so on that haven't been discovered earlier. So in all the retrofitting projects I know, there have been some upcoming things that you haven't prepared for, actually. So this isn't something new in this project, I would say.
So from your perspective, what are realistic time frames for organizing a refurbishment of that sort, and then making sure that tenants move out, and some issues like moisture or mold are discovered? So that's also, I guess, not unusual, at least not that one does encounter some difficulties. So what are realistic time frames for such an endeavor?
A realistic timetable for this kind of project, where the tenants also have influence over the when they should move out, and evacuation apartments and so on, I would say the double. That's what I hear from Stockholmshem's personnel, actually, about the double time would be needed for preparing all the tenants, and to inform all the tenants that they will be evacuated, and so on.
That's a very interesting fact, as we are bound to, I would say, 3 years within the Lighthouse City projects to undergo this process, and still have 2 years to monitor. So that is interesting. Before I pose other questions, I will again like to provide the opportunity to others to speak up. So I will unmute first of all Paulo. You had a question already at the beginning of Harry's talk, so maybe your question is not only related to the talk we just heard, but please pose a question. There you go. The floor is yours. Paulo, could you speak up? Okay. I see he has trouble with a microphone or finding one. Then I would again refer to the chat function to raise any issues. I would then also like to pose the question concerning the tenants moving out. How have you, this is a very complex process. This can be under time pressure forced. However, that is usually socially not so much accepted, and also it doesn't bring acceptance to larger scale refurbishment of that kind within a city. So, and Skanska is a huge player in that field. Therefore, you have already a lot of experience of this type. So my question to you is, Harry, what strategy have you developed and then implemented in GrowSmarter to make this evacuation, as you call it, as smooth as possible and as fast as possible? So what barriers have you encountered, and how have you mitigated them?
About the tenants, it's actually Stockholmshem's that Stockholmshem is doing that process, actually. It's Stockholmshem's Tenants, and Skanska is the construction company. So Stockholmshem have done the whole work for the evacuation of the tenants, actually. They have a large building stock, so they are quite familiar to these types of projects with evacuation, but not in this scale, I would say. And so Stockholmshem have the routines for that, not Skanska. So the scale of the project is the barrier, actually, I would say.
Okay, thank you.
That we are renovating several houses simultaneously. The best would be if we took one house at a time and finished, and then go to the next house. So if you saw my timetable, you see that we are actually in all the houses at the same time, and that's the main problem, I would say. So if we could have time to finish one house at a time and then evacuate the next tenants in the next house, would be optimal. But the timetable for the project wouldn't allow that. So we are doing what we can, and Stockholm Sam are doing a great job to evacuate all the tenants, and the tenants are actually doing a great job to helping the project as well, I would say.
Thank you. I do believe that actually in terms of, if we look at Stockholm's climate targets in particular, but also in general in Europe, we need to have definitely a higher refurbishment rate. And of course, this poses difficulties, and potentially GrowSmarter, due to the time pressures, actually has enabled the participating partners also to identify possibilities how to scale up, how to potentially then also in the future be able to handle more intensive refurbishment and tenants moving out, moving in movements. So that is maybe also to be noted. We have here the question of Paulo, who has now explained what he wished to explore with you. The answer to the question is would be he's seeking is related to the interaction between the tenants and the workers. So how were they helped to potentially move their stuff? How was then the interaction? How could the tenants observe the work? Could they participate in the observation, in the improvement of the work? I know as well from going into the sites that I think you also individualize to some extent the improvements of the households, or try to be as close as possible to the wishes of each tenants. So could you explain a little bit more on that side?
Yes, the tenants have influence in this project. The tenants that are moving back to their old apartments that's being renovated have the ability to choose the wallpapers, the types of kitchen fittings that they want, and the floors and so on. So that's their influences in their own apartments. And I would say about the tenants' possibility to follow the project is might be a bit little, I think. There are some information on the housing company's website. There has been some actions done with the tenants for the project, like informing at sometimes for the tenants from Stockholm Sam and Skanska, but basically mostly from Stockholm Sam. So we haven't put any focus on that in this project, I would say.
Okay, thank you very much, Harry, for these insights and for explaining some social barriers. Maybe we focus now within our next speech and also next round of questions also on technological barriers. So once again, thank you, Harry, and I would like now to hand over to Alejandro. I will provide you with the ball so you are able to share your screen now. The floor is yours.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for well, first of all, I want to thank the organizers of the webinar and the introduction of Alaya. Thank you. Well, okay. Now we are going to talk about the refurbishment work in residential buildings that Gas Natural has carried out in the city of Barcelona. We are going to see before a little introduction about what is doing Gas Natural in the GrowSmarter project, and then we will talk about how we select the buildings that participate in the measure of refurbishment. Then we will see each buildings, the measures, and and the barriers and lessons learned in each of these 4 buildings. And finally, we will see the business model that Gas Natural is thinking aloud related with this measure.
Alejandro, maybe just to stop you here, we haven't seen your screen yet. So if
you haven't seen my screen?
Yes, you need to share your screen on the upper hand
Yeah,
left side.
I'm sorry. Just a second. Yeah, now?
Now we can see it.
Perfect. Well,
thank you. Please make it presentation mode, and then we can see a full screen from your side. Thank you.
Perfect. Okay, as I said, we will see these 3 points, and we will start with the introduction. Well, short introduction of what is doing Gas Natural in the GrowSmarter project. The measure of GrowSmarter project are divided in 3 high blocks and in 12 measures. Gas Natural is working in 5 of these 12 measures, and today we are going to talk about the first one measure. The first one measure, Gas Natural is working in residential buildings and tertiary buildings. And in the residential buildings, there are 4 buildings that Gas Natural is working, making an energetic refurbishment. These 4 buildings are this one that we can see in this slide, that are Cañellas, Ter, Lope, and Melon District. Well, first of all, before to talk about each of these buildings, we will introduce a little lesson learned here. That was that in the selection of the buildings, it was what we learned here when we selected the buildings was that it was easier to find a neighborhood or a building that was interested to participate in a project of energetic refurbishment when there is before a project of a normal refurbishment, a structural refurbishment for the buildings. This is for two big points. The first one is an energetic refurbishment means a high investment for the tenants, so they are a little scared about that. And the other point is that with this collaboration, it's possible to reduce some cost of the refurbishment. Well, why we select these buildings and why we select these buildings? Well, the first objective of the first idea of the Gas Natural when we think about that measure was to select buildings that at the end the conclusions get in the measure were easily extrapolated to the other buildings of Barcelona. The constructive typology in Barcelona is easily divided in 8 types of constructives that are these types you can see in the chart of the slide. These 8 typology constructives are divided for the year of construction of the buildings. For example, the H3 are the buildings constructed in the 30s. In this type, we can find Lope de Vega and Ter. Also, in the H6, there are the typology constructive H6 are Cañellas, that are the buildings constructed in the 60s. At the end, Melon District, that is the last building that Gas Natural has carried out some works. Is a building that was constructed after the CTA, that is the technical code. With the selection of these 4 buildings, we are available to represent the 65% of the buildings in Barcelona. So it means that at the end of the project, our idea is that the conclusions that we get in this project, we can extrapolate it to the other part of the city. Well, here is the location of each building. Also, at the beginning, our idea was that all the building was in the same neighborhood. At the end, it was not possible, so we were available to select 3 buildings in the same neighborhood, and Canillas that is a little more far from the other ones. Okay, the first building. The first building is Canellas. This is a big building. It has 57 dwellings, and we here Gas Natural had carried out because this is finished. Passive and active measures. The passive measures are the improvement of the facade and the roof insulation, the substitution of the old building with new one to new ones with a low U value, and we had installing shading elements. For the active measures, we have substitute some boilers, and also we have installed water efficient taps. Also, in some of the dwellings, we have installed the home energy management system that Gas Natural have developed in another measure of the GrowSmarter project. The barriers and lessons learned in Canellas are two that are important. The first one are the little that we have talked in the last presentation in Stockholm, that is important to inform correctly all the tenants that are involved in the refurbishment. Here in Canellas, Gas Natural did an information campaign to inform each of the tenants' participation to be sure that they know all the implication and all the problems that will carry out the refurbishment. And the other lesson learned in Canellas was that for the GrowSmarter project there are a lot of high standards that we have to assume. One of these standards are the infiltration of the that we can accept in a house, and this affects drastically how we can install the new windows. These high standards, what we have seen is that the installers in Spain or in Barcelona, in that case, are not used to use these standards. So we had a lot of problems to assure these high standards, and this is why. And this reason is because we are as different as other countries in Europe. We are not accustomed to these high standards. The second building is There is a smaller building, only has 6 dwellings. We have implemented here passive and active measures. The passive are the same as Canellas, improvement of the facade and roof insulation, and the substitution of windows. And the active measures are the installation of a water efficient taps and the installation of a HEMS. What we have learned here are in buildings that are a little old, like There, that was built in the 30s. It's easier. It's likely to find structural problems or problems in the building that can affect to the rear planner. So you have to, when you start this project, you have to be conscious that it's likely to find problems in the building. Also, what we have learned here is when a building has a majoritarian owner, the communication with the tenant is easier because you only have one interlocutor or a speaker. This is a point that in Spain is important because as different as other countries, typically people don't rent the apartment, so they buy it. So normally, that is the case of Canellas. You have in Canellas, for example, 57 dwellings, which everybody has their opinion, and you have to try to talk with everybody of them. And finally, the last lesson learned are, well, as I said, in this case, there has a majoritarian owner with some flats on rent. So here it's important that not only the property knows the consequence of the measures, but also the tenants, because it's important their collaboration on all the measures. And Lope de Vega. Lope de Vega is a building from very similar from Ter. It was built in 32, but it's a little bigger. It has 20 dwellings. The passive and active measures that is being implemented here are the same, and the barriers and lesson learned in Lope Vega, we are still don't have a lot because Lope Vega is not finished. This is plan. It is plan. The planning is to finish the measures by the end of February, more or less. And finally, the last building is Melon District. This is a high building that is for the student. Is a residential student, and the measures carried out here are only active measures that are the connection to a district heating. Also, we have installed here a BEMS, and we have improved his BEMS. The barriers and lessons learned here are that in countries like in Spain, where the technology of district heating are not very extended, it's a little difficult to find sometimes buildings that were that they wanted to participate in a project like that. This is for one reason. This is for two reasons. The first one is because there are not a lot of district heating like Denmark, for example, and also because a lot of people don't know the advantages and the benefits that can give this technology. So they have sometimes a little scared to participate in projects like that. And the lesson learned here is that as a little similar like in Canillas, it's important to do an information campaign to inform the advantages and the benefits to participate in projects like that, and not also focus on the technical project, but also to focus on transmit these advantages that can give to the properties and the buildings. Vale, and at the end we are going to see the business model that Gas Natural is thinking that could be work with these measures. We are going to see three basic points of the business model. The first one is the value proposition. We first of all we have to say that Gas Natural will work in this rehabilitation refurbishment as an ESCO. So if you see, for the point of the neighbors and communities, we guarantee a quality of works and we guarantee an energy savings. As an ESCO, as an ESCO model, we have this in the contract, and also for the investors, we reduce the initial investment because the initial investment is the ESCO who did it. And we guarantee the quality of the works. For the cost, what we expect is a fixed cost and variable cost. A project development for the fixed cost, there is a project development, a construction, commissioning, and salaries. For the variable cost, there are marketing, there are incidental and delays that is easy to find it in works like that, and an energy cost if it's supplied and it's in the contract. For revenue, what we expect are the energy supply if it's included in the contract, because an ESCO contract could be or not could be included. Payments for the customer that will be the taxes that the customer will pay for the ESCO for the initial investment, and also we expect some revenue for the advertising on the scaffold. Finally, we should talk about this business model that in countries like Spain, I think this is for all for the countries of the south of Europe, where the density of the energy density of the residential buildings is very low because of the climate, of the Mediterranean climate. It's very necessary the participation of the administration public. Without the administration public, this business model is very are very unlikely to be economical viable because the reduction of the energy consumption can compensate the initial investment that is needed in projects like that. And well, that's all of that Gas Natural is doing in residential buildings in the project of GrowSmarter.
Thank you very much. Alejandro, could I ask you to keep on sharing your screen and maybe jump back to the last slide, this one, exactly, the business model, which might inspire our participants also to raise questions concerningly. I would like to ask you at the very beginning, just to clarify, first of all, you meant that first of all, you said and stated that without the involvement of public authorities, meaning city authorities in this case, the business model wouldn't be viable. Do you mean that without public investments, this wouldn't be viable, or without public regulations, or could you clarify this?
Yeah, of course. Well, it's a good question. No, what I mean is that without a participation of public administration with some investment or reduction of taxes, it will not viable because it's not possible in terms of economical that to compensate the reduction, the initial investment of a refurbishment that means a high investment with the savings that you can achieve in a residential building. In a tertiary building, it's totally different, but in a residential buildings in climates like Mediterranean climates are very low, so that means that it's quite difficult to compensate the initial investment.
Okay, and related to that, then a true question. First of all, to concerning the technology barriers, which you also mentioned, and well, one of my questions is, which components contribute mostly to the CO2 savings in your case? And you have presented 4. Maybe you just pick out one or make a general observation. So again, which components contribute mostly to CO2 savings? Which components are most cost effective? And then thirdly, which components do you need to cluster for the refurbishment in order to achieve the best cost effectiveness and CO2 reduction? Alejandro, we cannot hear you. Maybe the questions were too overwhelming, but I think important to ask in this context. Alejandro, we cannot hear you. That is very unfortunate. I hope you can reconnect and can answer these questions in the maybe after the third presentation. So I would like now to hand over to Christian from the city of Cologne to get from Rhein AG from the related
Hi.
to. Yes.
I'm sorry, I have problems with the Wi-Fi.
Okay. So before we hand over, then still the questions posed to you, Alejandro. What is your answer?
Yeah, what we ask is that what we'll say is, well, it depends because there are a lot of measures here, and we should be classified. substitution of as a passive measure are the substitution of windows in climates in Mediterranean climates, and for the active measure, I will say the connection of the residential the connection for the district heating in down district was a good effective measure to reduce the cost effective. Yeah, I will say this one for passive the substitution of windows, and for active the connection to the district heating.
And in combination, so is there a combination which you have identified? And I also would like to highlight the fact, which I find very interesting, that you targeted buildings that now represent 65% of the building stock of Barcelona, which will give you the opportunity to replicate and scale up your findings. So have you found a combination of different components which you find most effective in terms of costs and in terms of CO2 savings?
Yeah, for example, we have seen in Cañellas that we have done active and passive measures, that the combination of the substitution of boilers more efficiency with the installation of new windows, and also, if it's possible, the refurbishment of the facade was a very good combination for the reduction of the energy consumption.
Okay, then we have a question here posed through our chat function. So again, an encouragement to use it from Paulo. He is asking if you could express in percentage the costs of investments for the ESCO, and then also in terms of revenues for the private owner of the apartment or any other stakeholder involved, that might also be the city. So any cost sharing percentage that you can offer here in percentage, you can also, of course, refer to the actual costs and savings or benefits to the owner.
Sorry, but I don't know if I understand correctly the question. They asking the percentage that the public administration should give and the ESCO should invest, or?
Yeah, for the overall ESCO investment, how much costs are in? How much cost did you invest? How much investment did you do, and how much savings did you promise to the owner? And basically, who paid for the intervention? It is the ESCO. How much did the ESCO invest, and how much did the private owner then get out of it in terms of savings and costs?
Yeah, well, in an ESCO model, the initial investment did everything from the ESCO. So there is there is any initial investment for the tenants and also the public administration. The tenants, when in an ESCO model, we arrive at an agreement with the tenants that they should pay some taxes every month for the initial investment. So it depends. In these taxes depends very much for the contract. So it's not the same if we arrive at a contract of an ESCO for 5 years or for 10. But what we and also affects if in the contract there are energy supply or not. But what I will say is that I think that I'm answering the question is that the initial investment is everything did it for the ESCO at the beginning, and then the tenants and the customers pay some payments every month for this investment.
And could you give us an idea of how much, in terms of money, that means?
It's quite difficult to say because that depends on which measures we are talking about in each buildings and the energy and how much energy we are saving. So it's quite difficult to understand this question in a general way.
So please be precise. Pick an example of out of the four you wish to refer to, and then just to give us an idea about how much costs actually a household can save, and how much would be paid back.
Okay. Well, I don't have number here, but more or less, for example, in Cañellas, I think the reduction of the energy are more or less the 40% of the initial consumption energy, the initial energy consumption, and well, the cost they pay the taxes with this reduction of the energetic consumption. But also, as I said, we need the public administration that helps in this project and reduce the taxes that the customers should pay.
Okay, and just as a last question, just to clarify, will the tenants, and I think that's a crucial, also you talked about the information campaign, and
Yeah.
we should be very much aware that potentially not all costs can be recovered, or in other words, that some investments might be more expensive than actually the savings. This is not only the case potentially in Barcelona, but also many other lighthouse city projects. So in that sense, last question, and very openly asked, does the tenants actually pay more in the end? And that is not only, that however shouldn't be misunderstood, because of course the living quality has increased, and we know from the city of Cologne, for instance, where this is the case, the refurbishment of the apartments is creating a higher living standard. So is this also the case here in Barcelona?
No, in case in Barcelona there is not this our case, because what we are thinking about in our business model is that with the help of the administration, the public administration, the tenants only should pay the initial investment that the ESCO pays. So the idea is that at the end, if we plus the investment of the initial investment of the ESCO and the administration public, the tenants should pay less than these two investment together.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that, and for then bringing again more attention or emphasis to the role that city authorities play in such an endeavor. Then I would like now to hand over to our last speaker. Thank you, Alejandro, once again, and to our last speakers, that is, because we have Christian Remesi from Rheinenergie AG Cologne and André Esser from DEVOC Cologne. Christian, I now hand over to you, and you are able to share your screen now. It's working.
It's working. You see me? Good morning together. Christian from Cologne here. Can everybody hear me? It's clear?
Yes, very clear. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, good morning. My name is Christian Remesi from the Rheinenergie in Cologne. We are the energy supplier here in Cologne. Also, Mr. André Esser is also sitting here. He is from the building company DEVOC. And we give you a short overview measure the low energy district in Cologne. So I'm starting the agenda. At first, we talk about the applied measures. The second one is we talk about the barriers or the challenges that we have in this measure. And then overview over to our business model and our evaluation strategy. So I'm starting directly with the applied measures. The DWOC is insulating the buildings envelope, basement, ceilings, and roofs, as well as introducing the triple glasses windows in some buildings, not in all, in some buildings. And the stairway lighting in all renovated buildings is replaced with efficient LED lighting, and also energy efficient elevators are installed in the buildings. So the elevators are very energy efficient, and produce energy when they I say fall down. So we see here some pictures of the insulation of the buildings. We go up to 16 centimeters. Yes, you see on the left picture the new insulation, and for example on the right one you see the old insulation, and that we replace this with a new insulation. Also, the first construction phase is completely by DWOC. The second construction phase is at the moment in progress. In the first quarter this year, we also finalized this construction phase, and the completely conduction work, like the street heating, the electricity, and the water, are completely finished by Rhine Energy. On the pictures you see on the left one between the building phase, the working phase, and on the right picture the buildings when they are ready, the ready one. Also, the DWOC has an own designer and designs the houses. You see this on the pictures. On the left one is a new one. You see also the elevators that they are installed, and you see on the right side, yes, the final houses designed by DWOC. So it's yes, the houses are very modern and yes, very nice. Not everything was easy. We have some barriers or challenges during the implementation. The first construction phase was delayed due to unforeseen difficulties in civil engineering works. This led to, among other sides, to delays in the installation of the heat pumps. During the excavation of the foundations, reinforced concrete and valued machinery were found on the site. After demolition of these obstacles, occurred personally filed with debris cavities, like machine cellars, and yes, but the work on this site has nevertheless continues steadily. So you see also on the pictures on the left side, we found after 30 centimeters an old machine room, and completely full of stuff, and that was a big barrier or challenge for us, because on these foundings we cannot build a new object like heat pumps or something else. And yes. Also, the construction of the district heating has been delayed through the longer permit process, as well as due to the unforeseen difficulties working the soil. For example, we find some bombs from the World War II in the ground. As a way of mitigation, we supplied heating containers during the first phase of construction by the DWOC. That was the winter of 2016 to 17, Yes, we have some problems, but the construction of the heating system was late, and so we have heating containers, and everybody in the settlement has yes, has warm water and heating. So also we have problems with the concept of the thermal contracting. The problem was the DEWORK was not allowed to buy the air heat pumps on its own, and in cooperation with the Rhine Energy, this has some civil law problems, and so we brought the air heat pumps to the Rhine Energy and transfer also the budget from the European Union. So now the heat pumps are from the Rhine Energy and not from the DEWORK. Another major challenge is to renovation of the existing buildings while the tenants still live in the settlement. That's the big challenge in this project. We try as softly as possible to carry out the refurbishment. Now over the Christmas season, there has also been a construction stop for the tenants. The rise in rent in our project area is limited to a local legislation to keep the rent and social structure in this settlement stable. This is of course a challenge to the business case, but it gives a strong social dimension to Smart City and GrowSmarter in Cologne, and therefore the rent increase will be at a limit of €9.97 per square meter. So it's a maximum of the rent that the people pay in these new apartments. So the business model, that's one of the canvas model that we make. So at first, I starting in the middle with the value proposition. The value proposition of this project is to improve the insulation of the building, make a more efficient use of energy, and install devices to reduce energy consumption. And that will lead to a reduction in the energy consumption, potentially reducing energy bills. The monitoring of the electricity and the heat production will additionally add value to the service provided by the energy company, by us, by the Rhine Energy, and additional value can be obtained at social level with the reduction of greenhouse gas emission. Then we go to the left side to the key activities. The key activities are related to the distribution management system, to monitor the electricity and heat production through the sensors available in the buildings. For this reason, the previous implementation to a centralized heating system in the building is a key activity because it's essential to enable the measurement of heat production for each building. The data are obtained with the programmable logic controller that are installed in the building, which collects data using sensors with the purpose of using energy according to the requirements. Then we talk about the key resources. The key resources are separated in two areas. First is the improvements in buildings insulations that will reduce the energy waste by keeping the energy with the buildings. And the second one is the modernizing the energetic infrastructure by using LED lights and photovoltaic panels, and use a decentral management system to make the most efficient use of the energy. That are the two key resources. And the key partners are in this case also two. The project requires to collaboration of different stakeholders. So at first we have a technical provider, that's the Rhine Energy, and the building, that's the DEWORK. Also, public authorities to incentivize collaboration between private sector. Yes, that are the key partners. When we go now to the right side, to the customer relationship, the business model should be orientated as targeting real estate companies, construction or architects to offer solutions to their customers, such as owner communities or companies. The TNS can request the owners to apply measures to make a more efficient use of the energies and leading to a reduction to the energy use. The channels on the right side, the solution is offered by real estate companies or architects or construction companies as an added value to final customers to reduce their energy bills, improve service, increase well-being, or adopt an environmentally friendly approach in the energy use. So the cost structure. We have two big points. That's at first the hardware. The hardware related cost, that's all like facade, roof, selling insulation products, the triple glasses, etc. And the other costs are the external cost for software. That's the software that's called Siedlungsmanagement in German, settlement management. That's a self-regulation, decentralized energy management system for each building. And on the other side of the cost, we have revenues. And the revenues is for the housing company. The housing company has a modern new house with an infrastructure that is up to date, and they can reduce the energy cost in the completely. And for us, the energy provider, we charge a periodic fee for implementation these measures plus the cost of the energy. All measures must be evaluation strategy. We have I talk about the Siedlungsmanagement, settlement management, and these are collected all data from heating, electric, cooling completely, and we collecting these data every hour, 365 days a year. Also, we have an energy mix in Germany. This cannot be measured. These are from our company. Our energy mix. This is publicated every year, and the emission data will be calculated with the data from the Siedlungsmanagement that are collected every hour. Also, we evaluate the evaluation strategy for the house itself. We have a blower door, air leakage in the air per hour that will be measured by some architects from the DEWOC. And we're going to do a thermal bridge proof, and we are going to we make thermal images. At first, a thermal bridge proof, and also we make photos of the completely building and see how the new construction will be worked. The last one is the lighting intensity. The DEWOC make a completely new lighting in the buildings, and we measure it live with a lux meter in the buildings, and have now the difference between the old lighting system and the new one. And we also see with the Siedlungsmanagement that the new system needs less energy than the old system, and it's more efficient. So that's all information about our measures. That's me and Mr. Esser, and when you have some questions, please ask.
Yes, thank you very much, Christian, for providing us with this insight. We do have some questions in the chat, quickly posed in a minute, I suppose. Let me start off with my own question, also related to what Harry said in terms of the time scale and what is likely, a likely time scale from Stockholm or from Skanska. We heard that potentially it would be, they would need actually the 6 years instead of 3 to handle such intensive refurbishment. Is that the same also experience in Cologne? And then potentially what can you do different, or what would you do different if you would still are required to refurbish in such a tight time frame of 3 years the same building blocks, the same type of buildings that you have that you are doing now?
Yes, yes. The time is a very big problem because we have the problem that the people live in the houses, and so the time is very, very short. And in future, we need more time for this, for such a big working area.
Such a big scale, yes, but still you have achieved, or you seem to achieve within the given time frame, almost within the given time frame, to have handled everything. So you encountered some difficulties, but maybe in reflection to the past 3 years, how what would you do different in order to be quicker?
Oh no, that's we have to do the maximum of speed, and at the moment we have also a problem in Germany that a lot of people build houses at the moment, and you have no capacity in the market for such big renovations areas. So that's also a big problem. I don't know in the future how the market will be, but yes, we have to do the maximum of speed that was possible, and more, and more, and more. Yeah. So
okay, thank you. Yeah.
So yeah.
We have a question now clarifying the role of DEVOC, which I think André can answer. Here the question is DEVOC the owner of the building? Then it rents the apartments to the tenants. I think you can clarify that very easily, but then related to that, how does DEVOC then make up for the investment costs? Are they raised through the costs from the rent of the tenants?
Yes, DEVOC is the owner of the buildings, and our classical business model is renting apartments since 1950. The cost of refurbishment will increase the rent of the tenants up to €9.97 per square meter netto. This is in Cologne rent for apartments in this quality under the market price. The market gives the possibility to go up to €11.50 or €12, so that we have an enormous part of the cost which we cannot give to the tenants. And this is in Vereinbarung. agreement with the city of Cologne to stop at €9.97 to fix the social structure in the settlement. Because of this Stegerwaldsiedlung in the past comes from social housing, and now it's free financed, and there is a dynamic in the rent from, I think, in the past, as it was financed social housing from €5, and now we come up to nearly €10.
Thank you. This is again leading us to a question posed now, and which has been raised also beforehand, the role of public administration in this sense, or rather public investments. So the question, maybe to translate, would be: can such a project like in this intensity, so the smart solutions that you have implemented, since you are bound to a certain rent that in this case of Cologne are €10 per square meter, that could not go above this, how much are you dependent on public investment, public support? Because this project is supported by the European Union, so some investments are supported by the European Union, some costs can be recovered by that. Can you replicate, nevertheless, the same project now in Cologne without European funding?
It's a difficult question.
Well, it's a question, yes or no. The answer, at least. And
I
you can be
think,
frank. I mean,
I think we could, from the financial status of DEWOC, but we could not inform from Wirtschaftlichkeit, economical reasons. The funding from the European Commission, it's not it's not so high that it stands or falls with the funding, because of the total investment of DEWOC. It's so high that it's not so heavy in the decision.
Okay, can you maybe as a last clarification tell us, you said the percentage is not so high. Could you give us an indication of how much percentage the European Union is contributing to the investment costs? And secondly, potentially also to Christian, again, you have, however, in this project and in this joint venture, one can even say, developed a business model where you both participate and can recover some costs due to the fact that you are renting out some of the, you mentioned the heat pumps, I also know about the solar roof and so on. So could you extend or explain this business model, which also contributes to the feasibility of the overall project?
Our total investment, it includes the apartments in the roofs, which are new, about I think more than 50 million. And our budget now is about 2 million. I think it's max 4% the funding, and so it's not so heavy to decide to do it or to do it not.
Yes, and the run energy. Yes, we have some business models like the heat pump. That's a contract between the housing company, the DEWOC, and the run energy about heating contracting. And so over a few years, yes, it's a positive business model. Yes. but also the heat pumps in this area are not an economic factor. It's more priceless for us when we need the district heating at the moment. So we can, in a few years, we look in a few years how the costs are of producing, of heating will be, and then we can, yes, we can change from heating pumps to completely district heating, or the heating pumps will be working on time. I don't know, but over the years it's a positive business model, and the new settlement management system, Siedlungsmanagement, we think it's a future business model, but at the moment we have no pricing model for this. So we need some experience when this software is working, 1 or 2 years. Then we see the total energy savings of the buildings, and then we can see if this is a positive model, positive business model or not. And yeah, we would see. We hope everything is fine in the future with the system, and we think it works and it will be yes, will be safe energy in the buildings. And we are the future energy manager in all settlements in Cologne.
Thank you very much for you two, and thank you very much for all 4 speakers to answer all these interesting questions. I found it very enlightening to hear about the differences and as far as the technologies as well as social barriers are concerned, but also what solutions you applied. And by that, I would now like to hand over to Alia to wrap up our session.
Okay, hello again. Well, so now we hope that all the attendees have a good idea of the technical solutions applied for the smart energy retrofitting of residential buildings in the 3 cities in GrowSmarter. You have been able to learn that different technical approaches have been applied in each city and building, and different business models have been followed. And at this stage, the work continues with the technical and economical evaluation of all measures. The result of this evaluation phase will definitely provide more lessons learned from the project to complement the knowledge acquired up to now. So this will be done throughout the next 2 years, as the GrowSmarter project will finish at the end of 2019. And we will then get more definitive conclusions on cost effectiveness or CO2 savings, for example, that we will share as well. And also we want to let you know that we have produced a report specifically on the lessons learned from the implementation phase. And this report will be soon public. So we encourage you all to have a look on it if you want to know more on the lessons learned on the implementation of all measures. Sorry, not only for our work package, but also for the integrated infrastructures and urban mobility work packages in GrowSmarter. So thank you very much for attending to our webinar. We hope you have learned a lot.
Yes, thank you, Alaya. Also, thank you from my side, Thank you for attending. Thank you for contributing. Thank you for sharing. And please stay in touch through our newsletter, through our Twitter account, and please feel free to visit our next webinar, which will focus on a different issue, likely integrated infrastructure again. And by that, have a good day and have a nice weekend. Goodbye.